Here and Now, the program featuring the news and interests of the African American community. Here's your host, Sandra Bookman.
Coming up, remembering actor Malcolm-Jamal Warner, Theo from The Cosby Show. We revisit his Here and Now interview 1 year before his recent tragic death. Also ahead, this year's Hue Affair, why it's an important marketplace for women of color in the beauty business. The third annual Black Authors Festival in Sag Harbor celebrating Black authors and promoting literacy, and how the Crossroads Theater Company is building on its legacy of excellence. That's all ahead on Here and Now. Malcolm-Jamal Warner was just 13 years old when we first met him as Theo Huxtable on The Cosby Show. And for the next 8 years, we watched him and his TV alter ego grow up. He was everyone's little brother, son, friend, or boy next door. Well, last week, Malcolm-Jamal Warner died by drowning while on vacation with his family. Eyewitness News reporter Kimberly Richardson spoke with some here in New York who have known Malcolm since the early days of his career.
I think Malcolm so touched so many lives that I think that many people are going to be deeply impacted.
Here at Professional Children's School on the Upper West Side, where Malcolm-Jamal Warner went to high school, in the yearbook, the class of 1988, with fellow award-winning actor Uma Thurman. Word of Warner's sudden death while on vacation with his family in Costa Rica has rattled this tight-knit community.
He was well-grounded. I think he's thoughtful. I think he never grew too sort of, impressed with what his own success was. He was welcoming and engaging.
He's most known for his work as Theo Huxtable in the hit sitcom The Cosby Show.
Is this my shirt? Is this the shirt I paid $30 for?
Playing the role of the underachieving troublemaker from 1984 to 1992. Born in Jersey City, Warner made his acting debut at the age of 9. He would go on to appear in many other major TV shows and dabble in other parts of the industry. Executive producer, Grammy winner, his latest project was the podcast Not All Hood. Even following the scandal that centered around Bill Cosby in later years, Warner said he was still proud of the work he did, a show he said that had a profound impact on not only Black culture, but American culture. In 2013, he had this to say about his proudest achievement.
My proudest achievement is being able to have a post-Cosby life and a post-Cosby career and still have my head on as straight as possible. And I've had such an awesome life. I'm literally, I've got my ups and downs and all of that. But if I die tomorrow, I know I would go with a smile on my face.
When we come back, Malcolm-Jamal Warner's visit to Here and Now a little over a year ago. Stay with us. The death of Malcolm-Jamal Warner at just 54 years old has left family, friends, and fans in shock. Just over a year ago, we had the pleasure of sitting down with the former child star who bucked the odds and enjoyed a successful acting career as an adult. He joined us to talk about a new project.
Not all hood.
Not All Hood is a new podcast that aims to explore all aspects of Black life, from love to mental health to the intellectual and the cultural. Nothing will be off the table. The creator of the podcast is perhaps best known for his role as Theo Huxtable in The Cosby Show, and most recently for his reoccurring appearance on the ABC series 911. It's our pleasure to welcome Emmy nominee and Grammy Award winner Malcolm-Jamal Warner, along with podcast co-host, award-winning journalist Candace Kelly. So great to meet both of you guys.
Hey, good to see you.
So a podcast.
Yeah.
You needed another venue to have something. You're going to just take over all mediums. The name, Not All Hood.
Yes. Well, actually, Not All Hood was the name came from our third host, Wayusi Baraka, and the reason for the title is combating the narrative of Black life or Black culture that the media focuses on. And
that we're all one thing.
Yeah, and the whole concept is, we're not all hood. the black community is not a monolith. There's so many levels and lanes to the black community, and we wanted to have a space where we could acknowledge, discuss all of those lanes, because they're so varied in terms of our perspectives and our opinions and our ways of life, and we wanted to be able to have a place where we can talk about all of those things, discuss all of those things, and shed light on the not all hood aspects of who we are.
All right, and Candace, look, you do this a lot.
Yeah.
You got a lot to say.
I do.
Oh, she got you.
But for a podcast, that's a good thing.
Right. For the
Why
time.
do you want to be a part of this?
You know what? When we first started talking, we talked about it not even with my involvement being on air. Just my involvement in the project was just an interesting part of the whole thing. But then we got in a conversation for about, 60, 90 minutes, all of us. And then we thought, you know what, this is really coming. Well, I guess y'all said that after you got off the phone. And so maybe she should join us. And especially, since I do like to talk about different subjects and have been for so long. And certainly he has too. And so that's really how it came together. And we just talked really about kind of this master narrative that exists out there, that when we tell our stories and share our stories, we can really counter by just really sitting down and talking about our experiences. But there is one area that we chose to focus on, and that was being Black in America. So even if you were Jamaican or Ghanaian, when you come to America and people see you as they see you, there's a thread. And so that was important that we're talking about experiences in America, because abroad it's totally different. So that's how we really came up with this whole concept of people just being able to share openly and to see where we land, and hope that there's enough discussion and counter discussion to make sure everybody's voices are heard, because there are so many, because we're not all a monolith.
And who are you? What's your audience? Who do you want to be your audience? Do you feel like you're talking primarily to other Black people because they recognize the experience, whatever it is? Or do you feel like there are other people that need to be listening to this conversation so they get past thinking, well, they're Black, so they must think alike, they must live alike?
Right. Yeah, so it's kind of it's twofold. Inspired. I'm constantly inspired by Henry Louis Gates' quote: "There are 42 million Black people in America, therefore there are 42 ways of being Black." I think it's 47 now.
Yeah, it's 47 now. Right.
47.9 now. So for me, 'cause I don't think we have ever really talked about their target audience. But for me, it's Black people first and foremost, and non-Blacks, are welcome to listen, and it's definitely an education for them as well. But for me, it's first and foremost for us as the Black community to remember, to acknowledge, to respect the different layers and different lanes of the Black community that really may not even may not be our vibe. There's this idea that we should all get along. Right? So this podcast is not for the three of us to get along. It's not for us to agree with everything.
That's true.
Yeah, right?
That's true.
Yeah. It's a place where, I keep referring to, it's a place for civil discourse and respectful challenging of ideas and perspectives.
Which everybody these days kind of needs a lesson.
Right.
And
This is the civil part, especially, right?
And for us, again, it's for us because there's there's classism, there's racism within our own community. So this is a space, a safe space, where we can again acknowledge and talk about all things that pertain to the Black community and Black culture.
You guys jumped right into it with the conversation about the N-word.
Yeah, we did.
And that wasn't planned.
It wasn't
not
planned.
Yeah, it just came. And a lot of the podcast comes from, germinates from just our Zoom conversation. Like we have weekly Zoom calls that are supposed to last an hour, and hour and a half, 2.5 hours later, we're still talking.
Right.
So the podcast is also kind of an extension of that, because it's really us having organic conversations.
Yeah, and that's really key. And this is something that people will find themselves in because they're at home too, or they're at the office or wherever talking about, well, they're not at the office talking about a few of these things, but they are talking about these things. They're going to find this is very organic, and that's what we wanted. Something very organic where we might kind of know what we want the topic to be about going into it. But if it changes, that's okay. You know, it doesn't have to be a necessary beginning, middle, and an end, but just a thought-provoking conversation.
Well, that's how a conversation is supposed to go.
That's right, with the purpose.
You follow it, you go where it takes you. Why was talking about the N-word, the use of it? Who should be using it? Should it even be used? Why is it still around? Why was that something you thought, you know what, that's a conversation worth having?
Because it comes up.
Yeah, it does come up.
It comes up. Even amongst us, it comes up. We've been talking about it today. We talked about it yesterday in the
but you know,
car.
a lot of it comes up in the context of music. And then that transitions into, you know, specifically different types of arts. But the music and hip hop and things of that nature, people treat very separately from, you know, I always use the example of an August Wilson play where the N-word is used. And then how do we look at it in those particular contexts, and how do we look at it outside of that context too? And then that's where we really get into the conversation. And it's nice because, as he said, while we all have different opinions about it, we're all very respectful, but I think that people, when they look at it, they'll find themselves in it because they're going to fall somewhere on the spectrum with the N-word, because we all come to the table, everybody comes to the table with their story about the N-word, where it began, you know, how they feel about it now, and just in the context in which we live in 2024. So.
And even hip-hop itself, I mean, look, I think we're all astonished at what it has become.
Yes.
You know? But there are some aspects of it that I think various people question.
Yeah.
You know, and so that is worth a conversation, because you understand, you have to talk about, you know, the value of this or that. So is that something that you have talked? I mean, is that in a lot of ways, you're not just talking about Black life, but you're also challenging us as
very much
people
so.
in a way.
Very much so.
So, and is that something you thought about when you sat down and said, we're going to do this, that, yes, we want to get this out here because we do want all these various facets of our community to get light shown on them, but there are times when we need to be challenged. Is that?
Yes.
When I say challenged, I mean, the challenge may be just actually getting us to talk about it.
Now that
and
is
to be
true.
honest about it and to feel comfortable enough.
Right.
You know, because maybe there are people that have a problem talking about something, but listening to you discuss it, all of a sudden it seems like, yeah, maybe I do have something to say on that, and I'm not exposing myself too much.
Yeah, I think a lot of, at least, you know, feedback that we're getting so far is, you know, especially, you know, because the section on the N-word has gone viral on social media. You know, a lot of people are, you know, owning up to, you know, kind of checking themselves on how much they may use the word. But in terms of you know, in terms of challenging perspectives and challenging ideas, very much so. Like, it even happens with me. Like, you know, I can be very opinionated. Right.
No.
And I'm very strong in my opinion. But then Candace will say something that, even though it may not change my opinion, it opens up my perspective. It gives me more of an expanded perspective, and go, oh, okay, you know what? That's fair. So that it helps me. I think for me, I get challenged in ways that it helps me let go of judgments that I may have that I wouldn't have necessarily owned up to or been conscious of, if that makes sense.
And I would change out the word with validate too a little bit. I think that some people will find, okay, well, some of these things that I've at least been thinking about, or that have been bothering me, or that I just wanted to talk about, I feel validated now, that there's a place and a space where someone else is talking about it, and I can find myself in that conversation.
And not feel judged.
That's right, and not feel judged at all.
One of the things I was reading, Malcolm, is that you have, and I can understand it considering that you've sort of been in the public eye since you were very young. So I would think at some point you kind of want to have something for yourself that you're not having to share with everybody. Have you found it easier to be more vulnerable with the podcast and perhaps in some other manner, to be more open about sharing personal things? Is that
I think it's kind of a byproduct of doing the podcast, right? So I'm very, I'm pretty, I have a private life. I'm pretty adamant about keeping my private life private, but at the same time, I'm also pretty transparent in terms of my music, my poetry, my perspectives. This show, with the podcast, there's a little bit more vulnerability there because I'm not prepping. Like it's not poetry that I've already written. We don't have questions already written out. So I don't have any answers prepped. And in some ways, because we're going off the cuff and I'm just expressing myself, there are some things that come out that might be surprising for people, but even surprising for me, that I'm actually sharing this. And I think the thing with the N-word.
look, you've done a little bit of everything. You got a Grammy. You've got another album nominated for a Grammy. I love this grin. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
So, do you feel that the work you've done in the past, I mean, from obviously the acting, the roles you played, the music, you are not afraid to step out there and lead with, what's important to you and your feelings. How did that prepare you for this? And do you think that work made this an easier gig for you? That it was sort of the next iteration of what you had to offer. I mean, I think that you've offering what's important to you, what you think about in your music,
right.
And now podcasting. You're actually telling people what you feel and what you're thinking.
Yeah, I think it's kind of an extension of what I've been doing, and like I said, this way, because even with the poetry, there is some structure there, but to do the podcast again, where it's unrehearsed, I haven't thought a whole lot about what it is I'm going to say, but I also feel like I'm also at an age where I still have some things that are worthwhile. There is some, dare I say, wisdom that I have kind of accumulated, throughout this time. And I also feel like, when we talk about generation, we talk about like generation gap. We were having a conversation yesterday, and I was saying how, we're at the age where we're still the bridge between the generation gap. There are young people.
I think I'm on the other side of the bridge.
I don't know.
Thank you for including me.
We're still there. But we have access to elders that our young people don't. And we have the ear to young people that our elders don't. So there's also, I think for me, being in my 50s now, I've always felt a responsibility for social awareness, and I feel like this is really just an extension of that. There's a responsibility that I feel that, all of this stuff that I have learned all these years, I can't just keep it to myself. I can't just hold it for myself. I can't hold it just for my daughter and nephews. I feel like there's information, there's perspectives, there's wisdom and experiences that I have to share, and I guess I feel kind of a responsibility to that, especially as we're combating. There's so much that we're combating in terms of images, in terms of what young people are being flooded with. So I think that's the other thing that makes me, feel like, I have to. You
feel a responsibility.
Yeah.
Because you have the means and the wherewithal to do something and say something, and that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah. And unencumbered by, a company who was, financing my art.
Right.
So there aren't higher ups that I have to listen to, who dictate to me what I'm going to say.
You realize that there are a lot of people in the country that look at you and go, Theo Huxtable. No,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously, do you still? I mean, do you feel the pressure of that sometimes? It's a blessing.
Sure, not at all.
But I just wonder, because all I think about is Theo trying to figure out how he's going to support himself in an apartment.
Sure.
He didn't want to work because he just wanted to be a renter.
Wow.
Yeah, I love that.
It's just such a cute episode.
That's actually one of my favorite. But I'm real quick to correct people. It's Malcolm, it's not Theo. And I was even doing that back then because I was very clear that Theo was not going to be the end all be all. The concept at 16 years old that this is the height of my career was not a thought that excited me. Yeah. So my sights had always been life after Cosby. My perspective on success, because people would misconstrue the popularity of the Cosby Show as my being successful as a teenager, and I was always very clear that success for me, it wouldn't be until I was 40, 50, 60 years old, still working consistently as an actor, as a director, that I could look back and say I've had a successful career. So now in my 50s, I'm embracing like, oh wow, yeah, I have had a successful career.
I would say you've done quite well.
But there's still a lot of life left.
Yeah.
And there's still bills that have to be paid.
Yeah.
And a daughter that has to be raised. So
right.
It's been a great journey, and I'm excited about the journey ahead as well.
Yeah.
And leaving a mark and helping other people. I think that you just raised an interesting question that might make it interesting topic. What is success? How do you define? There's so many versions of it.
Yeah.
Because I got a nephew that keeps telling me success to him is he's trying to figure out how he can make some money online. He doesn't really actually want to have a job. He just wants somebody to pay him to wear their clothes. I'm like, that is, it's a fantasy.
Right.
Or it's the American way.
Yeah, right, to find a way.
Listen,
we've talked about social media and young people and how it transitions from social media into the real world, because the two are this far apart. You have to find a happy medium. It's interesting that you would bring that up. I would just say though quickly, success, and this is what we've talked about too. We talked about joy. Success is really if you happy in my own space.
Exactly.
And really being able to decide for myself what's next for me. And as a part of the show, to just connect it to that we often talk about the Black experience inside of Black trauma and something very heavy. But we have a good time. We also want to share that, we don't always have to be in the downtrodden. That we are a happy people and have gone through because of and in spite of, and have done it as amazing, great warriors and happy on the other side. And that's what my days often feel like, and I'm sure yours too. Sometimes it's interrupted though when I'm turn on the news or somebody questions me or something.
Now you're blaming me.
Sorry.
Just kidding.
But yes, so it's finding that all that joy within that too. That's really beautifully successful when I think about just the history of my people. To be here in this space and to be happy and to be deciding, to be autonomous, that's lovely.
Yeah,
you were so smart, you got her.
See, I told you. So, I love doing these interviews with Candace because then people,
it makes you look really smart.
Because I figure people, people look at me and they know that integrity. I lead with integrity. So I think people know anything that I'm involved with, there's going to have integrity there. But when Candace talks, people go, oh, this is going to be a smart show. Right?
No,
that's
true.
You
are
money.
I think that you all bring your individual gifts to the table.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it's a smart fun. And what I heard of the N-word discussion, it was smart fun show.
Yeah, it was fun.
Where can we find you? Really everywhere that you listen to, you're on YouTube, right?
YouTube,
yes.
Spotify,
and wherever
Apple.
you listen to your podcast.
Yes.
On YouTube, we can actually see you.
Us, yes.
Yes,
you
kind
of good looking to look at.
Oh, well, thank you.
All right. Not All Hood is the podcast. It really does sound like an interesting conversation. It's such a pleasure to talk with both of you.
Thank you.
Good to
Thank
speak
you
with you
having
too.
us.
You want to come back? Just call Tracy and go, I'm coming.
All right.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Okay.
I won't be here tomorrow. No. The third annual Black Authors Festival at Sag Harbor celebrates the power of literacy, culture, and Black excellence. This year's event will include some well-known faces like Sunny Hostin, co-host of ABC's The View, journalist Don Lemon, and National Urban League President Mark Morial, to name just a few. It will also put a spotlight on emerging voices. The theme of this year's festival, the power of literacy. Joining us today is the president of the Black Authors Festival, Darlene Williams, along with Vice President Maurice L. Williams. Thank you both for being with us this afternoon.
Thank you for having us.
3 years and counting.
Yes.
That means it's a success, right?
Absolutely.
Why was it so important for you to bring this Black Authors Festival to the East End?
Well, you know, for many reasons, but one, to pay homage to our foreparents who were out on the East End in the arts, right? And we just felt like, for me, it was bringing it home because I grew up on the East End, and it was bringing it home so that young people could really realize the importance of literacy, and people in general could realize the importance of literacy, and to amplify voices, Black voices, so that we could corral to stop this banning of books, especially our books. So I thought it was very important because I don't think that it's the knowledge about it and the awareness of it is out there right now.
Mm-hmm. And why, and I'm going to sort of double up on the question, and why, in your estimation, is it so important? Either of you can answer this. In this day and age, and given the climate we're in, to stand up for that right, especially writers of color, authors of color, to not only get their voices out there, but make sure people know how important that right to read what you need to read, what you desire to read, and for these books to even exist.
Well, I would like to add that for me, growing up as a person who was illiterate, I had taught myself how to read and write effectively. I think that it's important for Black men to understand that we cannot excel in this society without education. So for me, again, coming from where a marginalized community, I feel that this platform, me being on it, will allow other marginalized people to see the importance, especially Black men, to see the importance of reading and writing their stories.
And in fact, one of the panels you have, you've got a Black Men in Literacy panel. Talk to me about that and the importance of having that discussion during this literary event.
So when we start talking about the high illiteracy rates in the Black community, when we start to unpack that, we realize that it's our Black men that have high rates of illiteracy because Black women are the most educated demographic in the country. So that then leaves our Black men. So it's important that we start to have conversations around literacy and the importance of literacy and how it affects your health, right? Because many people who are illiterate, they're not able to manage their medication. They're not able to have certain conversations with their doctors if they even go to the doctor. So it's really fundamental. You know, it's a long term saying reading is fundamental, but it really is fundamental. And it starts with our men because then they're able to effectively take care of their families. They have, when literacy rates are up, crime is down. So then it becomes a better quality of life for everyone.
So it's all connected.
But
absolutely.
I would like to add on to that as well. So what I do on those panels is I read all of the books from the authors, and I believe that the plight of the Black man in America is the same. It doesn't change. And so I read those books and I look for the intersectionality of their stories and expound on those things. And it's usually received well.
Yeah. The other great thing about the festival is that it's a fundraiser.
Yes.
And this year it's going to benefit A Father's Love.
Yes.
And if you will, Maurice, just talk to me a little bit about what that organization does and why it's important to you.
So A Father's Love is important to me for several reasons, because it's like a sandwich. and I'm the meat and you know, the consonants, right? So the top bread is my father, and the bottom bread is my daughter. And I didn't grow up with my dad, and I'm having a time bonding with my daughter. So a father's love was born out of that. It's so many different aspects of marginalization that stems from not having a father. I just graduated from Columbia University with my master's in social work.
Congratulations.
And so, thank you. So one of the main focuses now is neurodivergence. So I find that a lot of the young people who are justice involved have some type of mental health concern that needs to be addressed. And so what we have added to A Father's Love is a mental health component to help young people deal with the anxiety, the depression, and the things that are associated with
these kind of mental health issues.
Yes, or just the behaviors that stem from having mental health issues. And so there's a thing called a life course perspective. And usually in those instances, a child's behavior stems from the life course that their parents had. And so peeling back those layers allows us to help children get to where they need to be.
So it's important work for you.
Yes.
And an important cause to be funding.
Yes.
So it's one day, one big day of festivals, and I named a few of the folks that are going to be involved.
Yes.
And what is special about some of these are big names?
Yes.
And some people that are emerging big names.
Yes.
Why is it important to you to have that mix?
Because I think that many times we think that because someone is a celebrity that they don't have real life experiences, and they do. And one of the, everything that we do, you can apply for. So you can apply to become an ambassador, a vendor, but you can't apply to become an honoree. Because that's something that I want everyone who is being honored, I want them to really embody the whole concept of the Black Authors Festival. We want folks who really believe in banning book banning. We want folks who believe that they can pour into young people to help them in any way that they can, right? Because we don't have to all do it the same way. So whichever way you can contribute. We want folks who really believe in that, to the point that Sunny believes in this so much that she has asked for her daughter to be involved.
Yeah.
As an emerging artist. So that really pierced my heart because she's a real person, but she's a celebrity. So that's why I wanted it to be a mix. And for those who are emerging, like our youth author, Amaryllis Green, I wanted her to be able to have a tangible experience that she could then take back on her journey and say, you know what, on my journey, once I reach my destination, I need to keep it real and give back as well. So it's really about each one teach one.
Okay. So we're going to send folks to blackauthorsfestival.com. That's the website. They can find out all the information. Saturday, August 2nd at the Breakwater Yacht Club.
Yes.
Right? In Sag Harbor.
Yes.
That's the important part. And also, afatherslove54.com. That is the organization that's going to benefit from this year's festival. Take a look at that website and you'll see the important work that they are doing. Thank you both for sitting down with us. 3 years. We expect to see you back here for the 4th year.
Yes.
Next year.
We look forward to coming to see
May
you
I
every
add
year.
one thing? Okay, so we also provide wraparound services for young people. We provide GED and college prep, civic engagement, financial literacy, and I'm also a chaplain, so we provide mobile ministries for at-risk young people.
And you just pointed out why it's even more important to go to that website to take a look at the important work that A Father's Love does.
Yes.
afatherslove54.com.
Yes,
Thank you both.
Thank you so much.
Try to enjoy the afternoon as well.
Absolutely.
All right. We'll be right back. August is National Black Business Month, and one of the sectors seeing unparalleled growth is Black-owned beauty and hair brands. Launched in Brooklyn in 2016, Hue Affair has been providing women of color with a vendor-friendly marketplace that connects culture, community, and commerce. And despite the recent ban on DEI, which has impacted sponsorships, the annual Hue Affair is returning to New York City. Here to tell us more is curator of the Hue Affair 2025, Y. Lori Taylor. So nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well, Sandra.
So, first of all, Hue, what does that stand for?
Hue stands for Hair Unites Everyone.
Mm-hmm. And what was the idea behind this when you kicked it off in 2016?
So I do have a predecessor, and I have assumed the role of curator at this point, but a very good friend of mine, beauty colleague, her point then was that we were not represented everywhere, and we couldn't find the products that we needed for our hair care and our hair regimens.
Okay. And I know look, the beauty business, it's been your business. You're a beauty executive for a long time. You founded Brown Girl Marketing.
Yes.
You were a former vice president of Eden Body Works, right?
Yes.
What is it about the beauty industry that attracted you?
What isn't there about the beauty industry? It's such a personal conversation and segment, right? And it's individual. And in that, we get to be as expressive as we want to be. We can do a soft lip, we can do a bold lip, we can do curly hair, we can do straight hair. I think what I find the most satisfaction from in the industry is really just working with women on an everyday basis and doing the things that we do to make our outer selves match our inner selves.
Yeah, I mean, and things have changed.
They have.
I'm a woman of a certain age, so I remember when it was impossible to find a foundation, a lipstick, a pantyhose, which I don't really wear anymore, in your color.
Correct.
So, and now you look at the fact that women of color, businesses owned by women of color, beauty businesses, are among the fastest growing in the country. It is big business.
It is big business. I mean, we spend trillions, right, of dollars, billions of dollars over-indexing in beauty, in particular the Black consumer. So we're not just overspending in the category, we're also setting trends in the category, we're innovating in the category because we're doing products to address the needs that were so long overlooked and not being attended to. So it sounds to me the great thing about Hue Affair is that it is not just about the consumer per se. The vendors get a chance to introduce themselves, and they get a chance to, I guess, work with each other in a way that perhaps another event like this wouldn't carry the same weight or meaning. So I think when you look at regionally, we have a lot of large events because we do live in New York City. Yeah. Those events don't always focus on the cultural aspects or the community pieces that are inherent to this wonderful city that we both call home, right? So in that, Hue gives us an opportunity to convey and really put together an envelope of what makes New York so unique. Small businesses, mom and pop shops, catering to the needs of a transient consumer perhaps, or in our case, underrepresented communities. We like to say Hue is at the intersection of commerce, culture, and community because we give you the ability to shop these brands and support them, to try and discover new brands, as well as just to convene in a very social setting. And I think, we needed that after COVID, so we had to make sure this event still existed.
And how many exhibitors or vendors are you expecting, and what are you expecting attendance to be like?
So we do lean heavily to beauty, obviously, because that's how, that's our origin, so we have to stay true to who we are, our roots. But this year we're welcoming over 60 different vendors, and we've been partnering with CVS this year, so we are featuring a lot of the brands and the assortment that you'll find in the textured hair care aisle there. And we've partnered with a lot of these mom and pop brands, as well as some larger brands, to give them the exposure and, again, access to just their community and amplification of the brands.
Now, we talked with some other people working on events similar to yours over the last few months, and they really complained about the fact that given the DEI ban by the Trump administration and some other factors, economic factors, they were having a difficult time with sponsorships. And so they were having a problem getting their events moving. You have had really good success and strong support.
I think relationships are currency, right? And I think that's one of the superpowers of Hue for it to be a long-standing, sustainable platform, not just for consumers, as you mentioned earlier, but also for the participating brands, the partners, and the sponsors. This year, we added a tech element, and we powered it with Myavana hair analysis. We also fostered this partnership with CVS. Those conversations happen very early. And so hopefully, you know, as we continue to move forward in this country, we'll see some of those things resurrect. But I also feel like regional shows and smaller events that don't command the same budgets as what we see from some of the larger events, they're still very necessary. And they're needed in our communities.
Yeah, and I think that with people like you, they will figure out a way to make them happen, you know, despite the difficulties they might run into. How many folks are you anticipating?
So our goal every year is to, of course, max out the room, push 1,000 people through the doors, right? In the past few years, we've come a little shy of that by a couple of hundred. We're, you know, regaining strength after COVID. I think New York is one of those states that was hit really hard from an attendance standpoint with events, but we're back outside, as they say, right? We're back outside. We're ready to welcome consumers. We have all the right brands there. We have all the fan favorites. Camille Rose is there. Kiss is there. You know, we have CVS represented. We have Palmer's. We have a lot of Pardon My Fro. We have a lot of new brands. So we're just popping up everywhere.
Is there a cost?
There is a cost. So tickets currently are $25 at the door. We try to keep it affordable because we really want you to spend your money inside of the venue, but also we have operations cost. But we do run flash sales on Friday. So this Friday and next Friday as well, we'll be running flash sales. And we really just want you to come out, shop, connect, network, find some new favorites, and then continue to support these underrepresented brands in our community.
Yeah, and there's probably many of them that we aren't really aware of yet, which makes the Hue exciting. HueAffair.com to find out everything you want to know about the show. The location is 110 West 19th Street Metropolitan Pavilion. And the date again?
Saturday, August 2nd.
Saturday,
I expect to see you there.
August 2nd. HueAffair.com. What a pleasure to meet you, Lori. I got a feeling it won't be the last time we talk.
I hope not.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll be right back. For nearly 40 years, the Crossroads Theater in New Brunswick, New Jersey has been a creative force on stage and a home for marginalized writers and performers representing the voices and culture of the diaspora. Today, Crossroads is still the only culturally specific regional theater to earn the prestigious Tony Award. Joining us this afternoon is the managing director of the Crossroads Theater Company, Ezra Ezzard. So nice to see you again.
Nice to see you.
I have to confess, I feel like we're kind of related because we both lived in Atlanta. You were a little boy there, and I was not a little girl. But I'm so happy that you're involved with this theater company that has such a rich history. Is that what attracted you to this position?
Oh my God. Yes, it is. You know, as you stated, I'm a kid that was born in Atlanta, and if you know Atlanta, you know the rich history of the arts there. And growing up there, going to Tri-Cities High School, and then later getting a scholarship to go to the Ailey School and Fordham University. And I feel like throughout my life, I have been fortunate enough to be amongst the living legends, as we call them, whether it was, you know, Freddie Hendrix in Atlanta, or Don Axum in Atlanta, Denise McClendon in Atlanta, or in New York, Carmen de Lavalade and Jeffrey Holder, Judith Jamison. And then my career transitioned into arts administration, and then I went behind the scenes and worked for BBC Studios for a while. And so getting a chance to see and experience and be a part of creativity and art at such a high and prestige level, and then also carrying that over into the commercials, into the private sector, and building a skill set there that has allowed me to see the vast opportunities for commercialism in the arts, and pair, you know, the business with the art and the art with the business.
Yeah, and keep it, and in a sense, not lose anything on either end.
Exactly.
The two can coexist.
Exactly. And so I remember I had just left BBC, and I got a call, and I learned more about the legacy of Crossroads, and my career has really been built on me being a champion for our stories, the stories of historically marginalized or underrepresented voices. And I was just so amazed, I was in awe of what happened from 1978 to now. Crossroads was founded, as the name implies, to be a space that created this kind of artistic bridge for folks to understand our humanity, our common humanity. And it just so happened that the legends as we know that were around, or that Crossroads created space for, were those that were George C. Wolfe and Ntozake Shange and people like Anna Deavere Smith and Lynn Nottage. And then you have actors and some of the world's most celebrated and decorated icons, the Viola Davises of the world, Courtney B. Vance and Joe Morton and Tamara Tooney. They've all passed through Crossroads.
So when you come to, I'm sorry for interrupting, but when you come to an organization with that kind of legacy, that kind of history, what is it that you are hoping to be? I mean, look, you already have quite the foundation, but what are you hoping at this juncture to be able to do to bring a Crossroads to the next level?
So we have always been a sanctuary for artists, and I think that is one of the things that's very unique about Crossroads. And I want to continue that legacy and create a pathway for the next generation of storytellers, the next generation of actors, the next generation of directors that can stand on the shoulders of those that have come before us in a way that we can honor our past. But I want to lead the organizations towards what I see as a radically vibrant future for us. We have, since I've been on board, I've been able to witness some of the things that are very specific to our organization, and we've been able to build on that already. When I came on board, we did a production of Fences, of which our co-founder and artistic director Ricardo Kahn directed, and the set was designed by Tony Award-winning Babel's Board. Beautiful, amazing.
Yeah.
And then we spilled over into our Genesis Festival of New Voices and New Plays, and that has been designed to create a pathway for new works. And Crossroads has only been around for 47 years, but within that 47 years, nearly every year of its existence, Crossroads has created an opportunity for a new playwright every year. So there was a world premiere every year, or there was a new play introduced into the American canon.
Yeah.
And so that makes me proud, and so that is what we're building on, that legacy.
So when you're in an area in the Northeast like this, you know, Broadway sucks up a lot of the air in the room. I mean, you understand why. The challenges for a theater company like Crossroads, regional theater company, I got to think, do you ever feel like you're competing with that? Or is it, you know, you have such an illustrious history that, I don't know, I guess that you don't necessarily have to be jealous of what people of Broadway taking up most of the attention in this area because of what you guys have been able to do, the kind of talent you've been able to attract, and the kind of talent that you've apparently been able to, I guess, to nurture.
Yes, absolutely. I think naturally one would think that there is some type of competition, but where we stand as an institution, we've won the Tony, we've received the Tony for Outstanding Theater. We are the only theater company that is founded or led by a person of color that holds that honor. Hopefully that will change. But we also were nominated for 4 Tony Awards, so we've been in the Broadway ecosystem. I think for us, it's about how do we continue to ensure that there's a pipeline and that there's a relationship and a continuum that we can be an incubation space for new work that could possibly transfer to Broadway.
Yeah, I mean, that's what, let's face it, I think you said pipeline, because that's essentially what a lot of the regional theaters end up being, in addition to being a success themselves, because they really are important to the communities that they serve.
Absolutely, and even if those works don't make it to Broadway, I think what's really important is to understand that a good play is a good play.
Exactly.
And you know, it's not necessarily qualified because it's in the theater district in New York City. It could be in New Brunswick, New Jersey. It could be in Seattle. It could be in DC. It could be anywhere. But the importance is that the American theater has a tapestry of excellence that supports the next generation.
Okay, and I know they're wrapping me up for time, but I got to ask you, coming up, you're going to come up on this fall season. Any big plans that you can share?
Absolutely.
That you can share?
This season is really exciting because we get to celebrate two iconic voices of the American theater. Crossroads, I like to say we are the global ambassador for diasporic storytelling. I think that's what we're capturing this season. So this fall, we'll be doing a new production of Lynn Nottage's Crumbs from the Table of Joy. That will be directed by Nataki Garrett. Then we will continue the season with our Genesis Festival of New Plays, New Voices and New Plays in March and April, and our public readings will take place at our theater in April. And then we will round out our season with Zizwe Banzi is Dead, in collaboration with the Tony Award-winning John Connie.
Okay. You dropping names again.
Hey, you know, we are who we are. We are a communal people, and we uplift each other.
No, I think it's terrific.
Yeah.
CrossroadsTheaterCompany.org. Folks can get a look at what's coming up on your schedule, and I know regional theaters, you always need support. You need people sitting in the seats and any other donate. They can. Thank you so much. It's very nice to talk to you, Ezra, and I'm very excited for you. I think that you're going to do such a wonderful job.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And you can come back and bring some of those stars with you anytime.
I will.
Right.
You got it.
We're going to be right back. Thank you for joining us on Here and Now. If you missed any portion of today's show, you can watch at abc7ny.com/here and now, or listen to our podcast wherever you subscribe. If you'd like to comment or share your story, email us at hereandnow@wabc.com or follow us on Facebook and Instagram. I'm Sandra Bookman. Enjoy the rest of your day.